Dawn breaks over a modest ranch house in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and 52-year-old Linda Hayes, a retired school aide with aching joints from decades on her feet, clutches her phone in the dim kitchen light, staring at a $1,200 A bill from last month's flare-up. A routine visit that spiraled when her insurance balked at coverage for the MRI her doctor swore was essential. Her husband Tom wheezes softly in the next room, his COPD unchecked because that follow-up inhaler refill. Another $350 out of pocket, up 12% from last year. Linda's fingers hover over Pay Now, but the checking account mocks her with $187, barely enough for groceries after the mortgage. She hangs up on the collection call, echoing delinquent, tears blurring the screen as she whispers to the empty air, "If I pay this, we eat air next week. If I don single quotes how long until it kills him?" This isn't melodrama. It's the brutal calculus of 2025 for Linda and 36% of American adults who've skipped or delayed needed care in the past year alone. Costs surging 8% while premiums devour 9% more of paychecks. Trapping families in debt spirals where chronic shadows like diabetes or hypertension fester untreated, turning whispers of pain into screams of regret. As the coffee brews black and bitter, Linda wonders, is survival a luxury only the insured can afford? Hold tight, this crush isn't abstract. It's the heartbeat stuttering in homes across the nation, where one unchecked symptom snowballs into a lifetime of loss. We'll plunge into the raw terror of these choices, the fury that festers unspoken, and the fragile fights back that flicker like distant hope. From that gut-wrenching dawn, the crush accelerates into a freefall no one sees coming until it's too late. Picture the EO waiting room in Phoenix, where 45-year-old Javier Morales, a construction foreman, rocks his 8-year-old daughter Sophia, her fever spiking unchecked because the pediatrician's copay jumped to $85. A 15% hike that gutted his overtime-fueled budget. She cried all night, Javier confesses in a hushed clinic corner, voice fracturing as he recounts dodging 3 visits last quarter, mirroring the 27% of adults who skipped doctor appointments in 2023. A trend exploding to 32%, planning to bail on care entirely in 2025 to dodge the $14,570 per capita health spend that has ballooned 7.5% yearly. But here's the spike that steals breath. Javier's delaying her asthma checkup, a decision echoing in 51% of debt-laden adults who forego recommended tests. As 41% over 100 million strong carry $220 billion in medical IOUs, with 24% past due and spiraling into collections that scar credit for 7 years. Cut to Seattle, where 39-year-old teacher Mia Chun stares down a $3,000 colonoscopy bill for her undetected colon polyp delayed 6 months because out of pocket. Max's soared 11% on her plan, leaving her in a debt vortex where 47% of adults now deem care very difficult to afford. Chronic illnesses like hers claiming 530,000 lives yearly from untreated delays. The tension coils tighter. Hospital expenses raced 5.1% ahead of 2.9% inflation in 2024, projected to 8% in 2025, while 26% plan to skip non-elective procedures, betting against biology in a high-stakes gamble where one ignored symptom cascades into bankruptcy for 66.5% of filers. Citing medical triggers. What if that next cough isn't just a cold? The dread builds, pulse racing. As these stories collide in a crescendo of quiet catastrophe, families rationing pills like contraband, whispering "tough it out" to fevers that rage unchecked. Beneath the surface, fury ferments like a storm about to break, not with shouts, but with the soul-crushing weight of "why us?" Javier's boils over in the truck cab, fists white on the wheel. I bust my back building homes for strangers, yet mine's crumbling because a checkup's a mortgage payment? It's robbery robbing my girls' breath for their bottom line. That raw rage resonates in 27% struggling with bills across incomes. The humiliation of haggling with receptionists or hiding symptoms from kids who ask, "Mommy, why do you hurt?" Mia seethes in silent spreadsheets, tallying $2,000 plus debts that 9% owe over $250 alone. I teach resilience, but this? It's betrayal. Delaying my scan cost me peace, and now every twinge screams too late. Across the country, 50% with debt skip recommended care, their anger a muffled roar in overflow lines. Where untreated hypertension claims lives while 41% Juggle loans from family or cards at 17% interest, the theft of tomorrow's security for today's survival. It's the parent foregoing their own meds to cover a child's, the retiree like Linda auctioning heirlooms for scans, the collective howl of equity eroded, where care's a commodity and pain's the price of poverty. Yet in this vice of vulnerability, defiance dawns not defeat, but a desperate ingenuity that claws back control, one calculated corner at a time. Javier's pivoted to telehealth hacks. Apps like GoodRx slashing inhaler costs 80% via coupons, stretching his $55 weekly budget, while community clinics offer sliding scale visits that buffered 20% of his outlays last quarter. It's patchwork, he admits, downloading discount cards mid-commute. But it's breathing room. Sophia's laughs are worth the late-night scrolls. Mia's mapped mercy missions. Free screenings via nonprofits like the American Cancer Society, catching her polyp just in time, while employer HSAs auto-deduct $50 biweekly into a $1,200 shield, reclaiming 15% from the crush per Fidelity's 2025 wellness trends. Rural relays like Linda's Tap Medicare navigators, disputing 30% of bills via itemized reviews that uncovered overcharges, funneling savings into generic swaps that tamed her $1,200 monster to $450. These aren't miracles. They're maneuvers, barter groups for co-pays, wellness apps tracking 10% rebates on preventive care, echoing KFF's playbook where early interventions slash long-term spirals by 25%. Still, these threads fray against a torrent too fierce for fixes. Alone families fasten eyes on fortresses like Expanded, HSAs covering 40% more diagnostics or price transparency tools from the AMA that exposed 11.4%. Drug hikes empowering negotiations that saved users $300 annually. They hanker for scaled safety nets, community health funds mirroring recession rebounds that cut debt 30%, or employer pilots bundling virtual care at zero copay, potentially shielding $14 million from skips. Nonprofits like Undo Medical Debt forgive $50 billion in arrears. A beacon as 8 to 41%, 21 to 108 million adults weighed in red ink. The dawn they chase? Equilibrium, a system where a foreman's wage wards off worry, where teachers treat twinges without triage, where retirement ripens with relief, not regret. As Linda sighs over decaf, I ache for the day health's a right. Not a raffle where love doesn't ledger against loss. If Javier's vigilant vigilance, Mia's mapped might, or Linda's unyielding grit gripped your gut like they, did mine let that grip guide you? Thumbs up to thrust these truths further or spill in. Comments the workaround that's warded off your own crush. And if the pulse of these perils pounds in you, slip into the American Pulse family, subscribe, and ring that bell. We're not just chronicling the chokehold, we're charting the comeback, one viewer voice strong. But the crush cascades beyond the clinic door. Next on the American Pulse, we shadow student debt shadows, $1.7 trillion burden delaying weddings and homeownership for Gen Z. We'll trail young dreamers derailed repayments in a frosty job frostbite, where diplomas dim futures instead of igniting them. The suspense? It's your story waiting to unfold. Return soon, feel the thrum.